don't know this, but me being on your show was what launched the idea of doing this podcast.
Chris, you are the reason we're sitting here today.
You are the reason we're sitting here
absolutely.
today.
That is a true statement, yes.
Because I loved it so much, I was like, oh, I could do this all the time.
Welcome to an episode of the Skittle Squad Podcast. We're happy to have you listening and watching today. My name is David Smith, and I'm with my co-host.
I'm Paul Pfeiffer.
Hey, Paul. How are you?
Hey, I'm good. How are you?
Seems like I haven't seen you for a while.
I know.
How have you been?
We never see each other. I've been good.
Good.
Yeah.
So I noticed that your shirt says, "Why are you so obsessed with me?"
So I feel like there's a hidden message behind that, and there really is. But, now that we have officially launched, our pages have been trolled a little bit. And we've gotten some little bit of hate mail from some people that, was sent to us before our episodes even aired. Like they just made the assumption that,
I do recall. I do remember that. Yeah, that was fun.
So our pages are definitely being trolled. But you know what? I had a friend of mine tell me, and I can't remember which friend it was, but they said, if you don't have haters, you're not doing it right.
I agree with you. Yeah. Unfortunately, once you're doing something right, you're going to get haters no matter how hard you try not to.
So this is a message to those people that want to troll our pages and send us hate mail. Why are you so obsessed with us? So.
All right. Well, we have the message out, and maybe we should sell that T-shirt on the website.
We should.
Yeah, that would be fun.
Be a good idea.
That'd be fun.
Yeah.
Put the logo right on the back.
Yeah.
So kind of kicking it off here, we like to keep things light and airy and not serious. So let's talk about guilty pleasures.
Guilty pleasure.
Yeah. What would you say is one of your guilt? I have a guilty pleasure, but I want to hear from you. What would you say one of your guilty pleasures?
Besides trashy reality shows,
which that's not a guilty pleasure.
It is a guilty pleasure.
No, it's not. Reality shows are amazing. Anyway, go ahead.
But I will tell you that I used to be obsessed with Beverly Hills 90210 and Melrose Place. Like I would watch them religiously. And I feel like now that's kind of a little embarrassing thing to say. But there are podcasts out there where, like for both Beverly Hills 90210 and Melrose Place, they both have separate podcasts where they are recapping the episodes now.
I love that.
And the people that are on the podcast are the people that were actually on the show.
That's so great.
So for Beverly Hills 90210, it's Tori Spelling and Jenny Garth.
Okay.
And then for Melrose Place, it's Laura Layton and Courtney Thorne-Smith and Daphne Zuniga. So they all go through where
those
they rewatch the shows.
Iconic for the 90s.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh.
I used to have a Beverly Hills 90210 shirt that I would wear all the time. I was in college at the time.
When I run training at work, I always use the zip code 90210.
Right.
It's like, you know what? You're never going to forget that zip code.
Right. So that's definitely one of my guilty pleasures for sure. I mean, I'm pretty much one of those people that one of the ways that I kind of wind down after a busy day at work is I just kind of turn on the TV and I just put something on for background noise. It's not necessarily something that I have to really pay attention to.
Right.
So that's how I watch all the reality shows, because I feel like those you don't really need to pay a lot of attention to unless there's a fight going on,
that is
where
true.
You're like, oh my God, they're fighting about this,
Yeah, it's interesting because now with the advent of Instagram and Facebook and all these, scrolling, producers really are trying to pay attention to the plot lines of different reality shows or different scripted shows, because once you make it really complicated, people can't scroll and watch at the same time. Yeah. So it's interesting how even writers and producers for shows now are really paying attention to that.
No, that's exactly right. And you and I have in common, we both love The Housewives.
Oh, yes.
So I watch, I typically watch The Housewives of Beverly Hills, and I watch the one in Atlanta.
Okay.
I think you watch like more than that, right?
Well, I went to BravoCon in Vegas, so
oh my gosh, so you're hardcore.
I'm hardcore. Yeah, I'm definitely hardcore Bravo fan.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay.
So I watch. I the only one I stopped watching because I felt like it got too toxic was New Jersey.
Okay.
Yeah, I just felt like this is just too toxic. The energy was just really bad, and now they've gone on a full pause. So I'd be curious to see what they do with the cast for New Jersey.
So this is interesting to me. So you went to BravoCon. So did you meet any of the?
Oh yeah, I met Erica Jane.
Oh, nice.
I met Dorinda Medley. I met oh my goodness, so many. I met a lot of folks from the Below Deck franchise, like Kate Chastain, Captain Lee. At the time, there was Stu on. His name was Luca. Really cute, cutie patootie. So I met him. Really met a lot of people. Met Uba from New York. So yeah, we had a really great time. We had VIP. It was interesting because they would put you in this large room in this ballroom. And if you sat near the door where the Bravo celebrities would enter, you could literally meet every single one.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Yeah, it was so much fun, but it was a 3-day event. And by the end of the event, we were sitting by the door and we were so tired. We're like, yeah, no, we don't want to go talk to them. But yeah, it was a lot of fun. And then they didn't do BravoCon last year. They did a mini one in Miami. And then I think they're going to do a larger one next year in Vegas again.
Oh, okay. Okay, cool.
But speaking of guilty pleasures, I know we're talking about TV, but I was thinking my guilty pleasure is eating a whole bag of Doritos at once.
Oh, we'll see. I mean,
is that a guilty pleasure or is that just bad eating?
No, I mean, I'm guilty of that. So the funny thing is, so when we were in the mountains, I told you that we, recently went on a vacation with a group of guys up to the mountains.
Right.
And we had to stop at, the only place we could stop at was Walmart Supercenter to get groceries for the cabin.
Okay.
So one of the things that I found that I never am able to find anywhere else was taco flavored Doritos.
Oh.
And I grabbed, like they only had 2 bags. I grabbed both those bags and I can polish one of those off in one sitting.
It is absolutely amazing how it's so easy to eat a whole bag.
No, it definitely is.
Yeah.
But I mean, we already talked on the last episode or the episode before that I eat my feelings anyway. So, so this is like nothing new for me. So,
I haven't seen the taco flavor out.
Oh, yeah. So that used to be like really big when I was growing up, like in the 80s, like early 80s, 70s, like late 70s era. It was everywhere. Like taco flavored Doritos were always there. And then they quit making them. And I was like, oh, no. I'm like, those were my favorite. So then I got on the Cool Ranch Dorito kick because
there's always the Cool Ranch nacho debate, like which one's better.
Yeah, I'm not a big fan of the nacho one.
Oh, that's my favorite one. That's my favorite one.
The Cool Ranch I definitely love.
Okay.
But whenever I find taco flavored Doritos, and I've only been able to find them at Walmart.
Okay.
And at certain Walmarts.
Oh, nice. I actually may have to go to Walmart.
Yeah. If you ever find them, grab them because they are it.
I will buy you a bag if I find some.
Yes, definitely.
So let's switch to another fun hot topic, pet peeves.
Pet peeves. Oh.
Yeah, do you have any pet peeves? I know. I feel like
we already know that I can't stand it when I text you and you don't text me back like right away.
Well,
like, that bugs the hell out of me.
Well, there was an article that recently came out that's saying if you respond to a text message right away, you're emotionally available.
Yep.
And if you don't respond, you're emotionally unavailable.
Right.
And you had this
I think this is why you're single. Because you don't because you don't text back right away and you're emotionally unavailable. So therefore, no one
So
wants
you're my
to be with
psychologist now.
Yes.
Okay.
Absolutely.
All right. Got you. Okay.
I feel like we're both each other's psychologists on this show. Because I mean, you know me, I'm an open book. I talk about all facets of my life. So,
yes.
So
that's true.
Yeah, that's definitely a pet peeve of mine. You know, the other thing that drives me completely up the wall is this whole I won't cross the bridge thing.
So for viewers, this is the St. Pete, Tampa.
And we've talked about this before.
The Tampa bridge.
I will drive across the bridge to St. Pete all day long. Like if there's an event going on or there's something where I need to be in St. Pete, I always go.
Yeah.
Getting people to go from St. Pete to Tampa is like pulling teeth. Like they just don't want to do it. And I'm like, you guys, come on. You know?
Well, think about it. St. Pete is a little bit more of a beach town.
It is.
It's a little bit more laid back and people just don't want to deal with it. I think Tampa is a little bit more urban, more city. Definitely. People are willing to take that commute.
Yeah.
Now I live in St. Pete and I drive to Tampa. I drive over that bridge probably 3 to 6 times a week. So I will come over to Tampa. But yeah, there is that controversy. I know. By the way,
but I do have friends. Like I have friends that just will not cross the bridge. Like you can't have anything going on the Tampa side. They just won't go. Like.
So here's a really interesting question. Do you think if there was land instead of the bridge, people would just go?
I don't know.
I think
that's
they would.
A really good question.
You know what? I really think that. Let's do a poll.
Yeah, we can do a poll.
Let's do a poll.
Like
if there was no bridge, if it was just a land road, would you make that commute between Tampa and St. Pete?
That's interesting.
It's a psychological thing.
Yeah. Maybe it is.
I think it might be.
Maybe it is. Or maybe people think that their car is just going to spontaneously combust if they cross a bridge. I don't know.
Now, there are people that are scared of driving over bridges like the Sky Bridge.
See, that doesn't bother me at all. I love that bridge.
Some people are terrified. I have driven over that bridge and there's a cruise ship that's coming up underneath it. And I've seen people pull over to the side of the road waiting for the cruise ship to go under it. Yeah, because I think maybe the clearance is 10, 20 feet.
Trauma from when was that accident that happened?
Oh,
that
in Baltimore.
Brought the bridge down. No. There was one in Tampa actually. Where it took
I didn't know about that one.
A barge or a boat or something knocked.
Something. There was something in the news about that.
I want to say Howard Franklin. Maybe it was the Howard Franklin. I can't remember which bridge. Skyway. Was it the Skyway?
Okay.
So
Skyway
Skyway
Bridge
didn't used to be that tall.
Okay.
So
the Skyway Bridge was officially hit by a ship at some point.
So it could be some past trauma.
Okay. Yeah,
from
that makes sense. I mean, that is a high bridge.
It is a really high bridge.
They do close it in high winds. It's so high.
You know, it's like, I look at it like a roller coaster. It's kind of like a roller coaster. You go straight up and then you go straight down.
But you're not controlling the roller coaster, but you're controlling your car.
I don't know. I just don't see why people freak out over it. I'm like, oh, okay, it's a bridge. The one that I freaked out over was there was a time when we drove. We went to New York City and we had gone up there by train, which was really cool. But on the way back was when the train strike was pending. You may have remembered this.
I do remember that.
So they canceled our ticket back. So we had to take a commuter train to Philly and rent a car and drive from Philly back to Tampa.
Oh, okay, got you.
And the way we actually went in this underwater bridge, like I think in the Carolinas somewhere. And that freaked me out because I was like, oh my God, we're like under the water.
So you were in a tunnel?
Yeah, we were in a tunnel like under the water.
So is that considered to be a bridge under the ground?
I don't know. Maybe. I mean, it just freaked me out because I was like, I knew that there was water over me.
Right.
And we were under the water. And I was like, God,
So you understand when people are scared of tunnels, but not bridges.
Right.
Got it. Okay, perfect. Yeah. Okay, so
I'm an enigma. What can I say? So,
well, I am. I think we'll cut over to a quick break, and then we will welcome our first guest. Stay tuned.
Okay.
Welcome back. We're excited to introduce our guest today. Our guest today is a co-host of the Big Gay Radio Show on WMNF 88.5 FM. Hopefully I said that right. Welcome, Chris Gorman. Thank you for being here today.
Hey, Chris.
Yeah, we're so excited. You're a veteran, really.
I wouldn't consider myself that by any means.
How long have you been a co-host on the show?
So I started off as a news host, and that was about 3 years ago last month.
Okay.
And then I got to being a producer in about June of 2 years ago. And ever since then, I've been a pretty main part of the show. And then after about 6 months there, as it was under a different name, stuff happened in the off season and off air. And eventually I took over as the primary host.
Okay.
And that was about 2 years ago now.
So you have on the show typically 3 hosts.
So it's usually myself, Esme Russell, and Brian Hinkson.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Awesome.
Yes. Although I have been on the show before, so thank you. I mean, it was a lot of fun. Esme was not on when I was on. It was just Chris and Brian, but it was such a fun experience. And actually, you don't know this, but me being on your show was what launched the idea of doing this podcast.
Chris, you are the reason we're sitting here today.
Oh,
You are
that's
the
so
reason
awesome.
we're
Yes,
sitting here
absolutely.
today.
That is a true
Cool.
statement. Yes.
Because I loved it so much. I was like, oh, I could do this all the time. So
Yeah.
that's when I got in touch with David and I said, hey, you want to do this with me? And he was like, yeah. So
That's so awesome.
so
Yeah.
now we have a show.
Well,
so.
I appreciate that you guys said that. And we have a lot of fun. Everything about it is just so much fun. And I'm honestly, I like to look back on everything that happened very fondly, but it's very unique the way that my situation was brought into it.
Okay.
Because I've talked to a lot of different radio hosts who like have gotten their start in the industry, and they always talk about how normal-ish their sort of situation was into the industry. And then I talk about my case where, you know, people have wound up with criminal charges. And so it's very interesting, my start to the industry. So I'm glad that yours is a smooth start.
Yeah, no, definitely. I mean, it's you know what goes into these things. So,
Oh, yeah.
So it's almost like another full-time job
Definitely.
for the
Yes.
two of us. It's, you know, it's booking guests. It's,
Mm-hmm.
you know, trying to figure out schedules. It's getting advertisers. It's, you know,
Social
the whole
media.
bit. Social media,
Yep,
you know.
yep.
We're lucky that we have a social media manager who does a wonderful job. And
Delene,
make sure-
shout out. We love you.
Delene, we love you. You know, she does a fantastic job with our social media, but I definitely had a really good experience on your show, even though the hours are brutal because their show airs from midnight to 3
Yes.
a.m.
Yes.
So, you know, I was fine until about 2:30, and then I kind of started hitting that wall.
I'm
and I
hoping
was
you guys
like,
have a supply of Red Bull for your
oh my
guests.
God.
We
No,
unfortunately do
no.
not.
Oh, okay.
We are all volunteer, nonprofit
Oh,
based,
got
so
you. Okay.
we can't really.
People
it's not
bring
within
their
the
own Red Bull.
budget. Yeah.
Right.
Got it. Okay.
So have you seen, are there any concerns, you know, with the current, and we try not to get too political on the show because the intent of the show is to kind of get people to escape from that, but sometimes we can't avoid,
right.
you know, touching on things politically. But with the political environment, do you see anything going on in terms of funding potentially being pulled because of the current administration that we have?
Yeah. So luckily, we are in a situation where majority of our funding is not related to federal funds or state funds. It's primarily listener supported. However, one of the main things that they are targeting now is underwriting, which is basically the ability to not necessarily promote, but talk about a specific thing for a specific amount of donation. So it's basically a way that nonprofit stations can basically get, you know, promotion money, essentially. So they're trying to target those for NPR stations. However, I believe that in total that encompasses very, very few percentages of the budget. However, you know, even a couple percentage points is a fairly big part of the budget, especially with, you know, how big NPR and all these NPR stations and NPR affiliates are. So there is the attack. They would do what if they would do more if they could, but NPR and WMNF has become so listener supported and has such a grassroots and grounded support movement that there's very few situations that I can foresee that stations like WMNF are going to like just go away. You know, and that's what they would want. They would want these stations to go away, but taking away their federal funds is not gonna go ahead and revoke their licensing or anything like that. So, and that's a point that I like to bring up with the show, because there's so many people that do bring up some like they'll call into the show because we're live, so people can call into our show, and they'll say that they'll try and get us canceled, and I'm like, okay, so go ahead and try and get us canceled if you'd like, but I'm still gonna go ahead and if I do get canceled, I'm not on WMNF, then I'm going on Spotify and Apple Podcast.
Right, like
there's
we did.
other there's other avenues that I'm going to continue the platform that I have. So there's other ways to raise money outside of federal funds. So I'm very confident that, you know, NPR and public media will continue to thrive. My main concern is PBS though, because they do have a lot more federal funds tied into their budget. But at least from what I can tell, we aren't going anywhere.
Okay.
That's really reassuring. Yeah. Thank you for sharing that with us.
Yeah. And I think, from my point of view, people may ask, well, you guys are on a podcast and you're interviewing the host of the big gay radio show. Like, why would you do that? Is there a competition thing going on? Well, in my mind, we should all be supporting each other, regardless of what, each one is doing. And the Skittle Squad actually sponsors the big gay radio show on a monthly basis. So we kick in so much every month.
And we appreciate that.
Big gay radio show, because I don't look at it as a competition. I look at it more as we're supporting each other as a community.
Exactly.
So,
and I hate the idea that there is competition, because there's no such thing as competition when your mission is to broadcast as many stories as possible.
Right.
We all have different individuals that we personally know. You have much more connections than I do. I'm only 24 years old, so I don't have the connections that you would have. So the people that you interview are probably going to be different than the people that I interview. And also, there's also the whole aspect of, podcast and radio are completely different formats. You know, I have, I play music. I have FCC regulations. You guys are a lot more looser when it comes to things that you can say.
Yeah,
exactly. Exactly.
Thank you for adding that warning to all of our thank you.
But honestly, so with the show, I also will always make the caveat that my views are completely different than what maybe even the station's views, because I don't see every sort of aspect of the budget. I don't see how much we've taken in or anything like that. However, from my knowledge and my understanding of what we are currently experiencing and facing, underwriting is my main concern. But because that is a large, there is a hefty amount for that. But other than that, that's not going to be part of those. It's not going to be a killer of NPR.
Yeah. Well, the other thing I wanted to touch on is you're currently, you're 24 years old and you've won awards for your activism in the community, which is fantastic. And I like to see the younger energy coming through from our younger people. I'm not trying to age myself, but I am pushing 60. So, and I know you're in college right now and your major is political science. So what are your aspirations in terms of, once you complete college, what are your plans after that?
So, honestly, I don't really have that many, specific laid out plans. There's things that I want to do. And, if I could go ahead and what my mindset is in terms of after 4 years from, or 2 years from now, when I go ahead and make the decision of whether or not, I want to go and pursue radio, or whether or not I want to go and pursue politics, or whether or not I want to go into the nonprofit sphere, that's honestly very contingent on the very local aspect of politics.
Sure.
There's very, if, let's say I'm currently represented by Bernie Jaquise, who's currently in the state house and targeting the Largo public libraries because of their LGBTQ display. That's something that concerns me, and that might be something that drives me to go into the political sphere as opposed to focusing through the radio aspect. It's all about prospects. I'm obviously, as you said, I'm in college, so there's a lot of things that are currently up in the air. But my main focus is obviously getting the degree, and then fielding my options from there.
Yeah. Yeah.
And it's interesting, talking with you, like you had mentioned, we could be a little bit older than you. And so what do you think is the overall impression of folks at your age as far as just like what's happening in our current environment? Are they dialed in, or are they passionate about like what's happening? Are they upset, or is it more of like I'm just going to continue scrolling through Instagram and pretend this isn't happening?
So I would never be the type of person to say that I'm going to speak upon every single person in my generation. However, I am also one of the older people in the class when I'm in my class. And only at 24 years old, that's saying something. So if from what I can tell around me, there are a lot of young people that are wanting to get into politics.
Oh, that's great. Okay.
There's a lot of young people that also don't know how to get into politics. And that's like, and there's a lot of gatekeeping that currently is like that's currently happening. And, something that's really great is that I was recently able to have the different Nathan Kuipers and Ashley T. Brundage on to come on. But then there was also the requirement and the stipulation that I have to also reach out to their competitor, Karen Gonzalez-Pittman, because that's part of the FCC regulations when you get a political figure on.
Oh, that's interesting. Okay.
But Karen Gonzalez-Pittman would not even meet with me. And honestly, whether or not, wherever you fall on the political spectrum, if you are a 24-year-old reaching out to your representative and they won't even talk to you,
right,
that's an issue.
Right.
Yeah.
So I'm in that mindset where we need to continue to grow as the younger generation, and we also need to support the younger generation. We need to not necessarily and I don't mean to harp on you a little bit, but the comment about are they always on their phones? No, I promise you, they are not just on their phones. Cause I truly see the people in my class that are motivated. And not only am I one of the older people in the class, these younger kids, or I say kids, but my younger peers, they are smarter than me. They are so much smarter than me. I go into class and sometimes I'll feel like the dumbest person in the room because they have such a major understanding of the political sphere and what they're learning and what they're trying to understand. And granted, it could just be that they're book smart. That could just be it. But, we're talking about a generation that's dealt with COVID. We're talking about a generation that's dealt with more recessions than we probably can count.
Right.
So we're all struggling. We have all struggled. And I think the younger generation has definitely seen that there are situations that don't necessarily represent us in the in Congress. When I was 21, when I was 21, I lost my job at a call center. And at that time, they offered me a very hefty severance, which was great and all, but I also had to go on unemployment and try and get through that as well. And just months after my unemployment, all I heard from the right-wing conspiracy sides were that everybody on unemployment is a moocher.
Right.
And I couldn't find a job to save my life.
Right.
Wow.
And I went from leading 180 agents across multiple different countries at 19 years old. And then when I'm 21 years old, 20 years old, and I can't find a job after that, and all I'm doing is being called a moocher by politicians because I'm reliant on the government systems that we have in place. And then they're trying to take away from those systems. That's going to motivate people.
Right.
That's going to motivate the younger generation. And, I'm not alone in that. I'm definitely not the only person who lost their job at the tail end of the pandemic.
Right.
And were mocked essentially for using these services. And so I hope that, the next generation continues to stand up.
Well, that's pretty impressive because, and this is why I like that we have such a wide variety of different guests on the show, because I feel like I learned something from every single guest that we have on.
Yeah.
So the fact that you're telling me that the younger generation, and keep in mind, we're in our 50s. So it's a whole different dynamic and generation, how we grew up versus, how younger people are growing up today. The fact that you're telling me that your generation is so much more smarter and everything else, particularly with COVID, because we have to remember when COVID was going on, school was all online.
Yeah.
And keeping kids motivated to learn in an online environment, is difficult.
Definitely.
Compared to being in a physical situation where you have a classroom with students in there and a teacher.
Right.
So that's very encouraging to hear.
It's exciting for me. In your experience, it sounds like really folks your age and even younger are dialed in.
I feel like at least that's my personal experience. And that's why I'll always say I can't speak for every person. However, in my classes that I've taken over the last year and a half that I've been at USF, that have been specifically political science classes, because I went to SPC and I went to and I got my associates there, and it was a general older crowd because there was a lot of people that were trying to go and get their associates and stuff like that. But specifically the political science classes that I've been taking overwhelmingly consist of people either my age or younger. So I'm truly in that mindset where I feel like there's a lot of an echo chamber going on, especially within like certain groups of people. Because if you surround yourself with a bunch of older people and you don't talk to the younger generation, you don't talk to those people about, what's going on, then you're not going to be tapped in. All you're going to do is hearsay.
Right,
That's all you're going to do is have hearsay.
Yeah.
So if you're not hearing the next generation, you need to reach out and find the next generation. So that's at least my personal experience, because I've had some really good discussions from both conservatives and liberals in my classes. One of the students in my class is a member of the USF Young Republicans, and she's really intelligent.
Right.
And so I have a lot of respect for all the people who go ahead and step into the political sphere, and that, you shouldn't also have to have a political science degree to get into politics.
No.
So that's where I feel like we're missing out, especially in terms of getting those realist candidates. I constantly see these lawyers running for office and these giant major buyers of people who are just essentially trying to buy the election. Right. And that's not what we need. Yeah. We need people who are like me, like you, who are actually going to go ahead and advocate for the next generation and future generations and past generations. Because it seems like Social Security has been, and correct me if I'm wrong, on the chopping block as well.
Oh, obviously.
So,
I mean, that's always been a steadfast.
So we need to have people out there that are advocating for the younger and the older and everything in between. So, and I think the younger generation, they are going to do it. They don't get the spotlight as much because there's clicks involved. There's a lot of clicks involved. You get more clicks if you can show how stupid a person is compared to how smart they are.
So unfortunately,
that's true.
Unfortunately,
yeah,
so that's
very
where
true.
my mindset is. I hope to God that we can actually move forward through the stupidity and through the identity politics. But it is seeming very scary, and it does seem like there's a lacking of the younger generation.
Well, we just talked about on the last show, ways to save money, because with the tariffs, being brought on, people are losing lots of money out of their 401ks, out of their, investments, so on and so forth. So, it's going to eventually impact everyone, no matter what generation you are, because you may be younger and may not be thinking about investments at this moment, but you may be working at a company that their bottom line is getting hit, and then they're laying people off. So it's.
I work in the radio industry, so I know that for a fact.
I mean, it's definitely something that everyone should be thinking about. In terms of what's going on with our current political thing. I remember when I was in high school. I don't know if it was the same with you, but we could not graduate high school unless we had civics.
We definitely had civics.
We had to take civics.
For sure.
It was a requirement for us to graduate.
Absolutely.
I don't think that's a requirement
It was
anymore.
For
me. Was it?
Good.
Yeah,
good.
For me at least. I don't know. I don't know if that was just a Pinellas County thing or if that's a thing that's throughout the entire state of Florida. Because I'm born and raised in Pinellas County. I went to Seminole Middle School, Seminole High School. I went through the whole process throughout here. I took civics, I took U.S. government, I took a bunch of different, classes studying the actual political spectrum and history and all that stuff. So at least I graduated class of 2018. So at least
God, I feel so old.
as long as and things have changed. Things have definitely changed. But at least the group of people that I am talking about, the people that are in my classes, as far as I understand, they also took civics and they also took U.S. government and stuff like that, as far as I know. And granted, recently they have been starting to get more lax and everything like that. So we haven't actually seen the effects of the lacking of those classes getting removed from the situation. But the younger generation that did go through those classes are seeing and also understanding the fact that those classes had a lot of value. And those classes are needed to be taught.
I think even in my undergrad, I was required to take a government class.
Yeah.
Now that I'm thinking about it.
Well, that was back before 2001 for me.
That was back in the Flintstone era.
Well, I think it's interesting also is that I'm hearing often that kids that are between 18 to 22, they're opting just not to get these huge loans for college and to self-educate themselves, go onto the internet. There's so much free education out there right now versus like, Paul, when you and I were, growing up, there was no internet. So
True.
Now you've got a lot of...
Or computers.
Or computers. Yeah, I mean, I remember having a gateway computer, I think in 1994.
Like we had to write papers using encyclopedias.
Yes. Yeah, we had a set of encyclopedias. Yeah. So, I do think that a lot of kids nowadays or younger people are just educating themselves independently.
Yeah. I would not be going to class. I wouldn't be going to school if it wasn't paid for by other people in my life. I think you're absolutely right. And I think it's a smart idea as opposed to going and dealing with, the whole monotony of going to class on a regular basis, because you have to also take into consideration that's so much time on your hands that you can go and get a career, get an opportunity somewhere else doing things that are actually, beneficial and going to give you a career path forward. But also, I laugh at that because there's so many times where, especially when I was at SPC, where my professors would just say, watch this YouTube video.
Oh my goodness.
And
wow.
I'm like, oh, what am I doing here? I'm spending all this money to just watch YouTube videos.
Wow. Well, they found it for you. No.
Yeah, I mean, great. Thank you. Thank you so much. I'm so
kidding.
fantastic.
Just kidding. Yeah. Wow.
But no, it is what it is. And honestly, a lot of those videos could explain the concepts so much better than teachers can, certain teachers can. Because I've met some really bad teachers.
Yeah. And now with the advent of AI, I mean, really, it's just amazing. We're going to have new jobs, new careers.
I'm using it at work. I'm using it at work right now.
Excellent.
AI.
Yeah. That's for sure.
It's crazy.
Yeah.
So, now to get away from the serious stuff, what do you like to do in your spare time? Like, what do you do for fun?
So, honestly, I play a lot of video games.
Okay.
To be honest, that's honestly where I started broadcasting. Technically,
cool.
When I was like 9-10 years old, I would steal my parents' laptop and I would get into like voice chats on Skype with my friends that lived over in Japan.
Okay.
And we'd live stream together.
Oh, cool.
Okay.
We'd play like video games like American Truck Simulator and like a bunch of other stuff. It was a lot of fun. But yeah, that's where I fell in love with broadcasting because of the fact that, that was available. And that's why I love when I also worked as an aftercare worker prior to doing the whole radio show and everything like that. And so anytime that my kids would express an interest in like video gaming and Minecraft and live streaming, I was like, yes, do it. You're going to love it. It's amazing. You absolutely should do it. Like, don't let anybody stop you. Like, go ahead and do what you need to do.
Yeah, I don't know too much about live streaming. I've seen a couple YouTube videos about it, but I do know there's some really rich, really famous people out there that do it. Yeah, for sure.
It was a lot of fun. I just got too much. I stopped doing that about 2018, like after I left my parents' place. It was just a little bit too much effort in terms of like, with little reward. You don't make that much money unless you are one of those huge one. So yeah.
Is there anything you want to promote or what you got going
on? We've got WMNF's Big Gay Bingo on May 19th.
That's right.
Yes. So that's going to be at Cocktail St. Pete. It's going to be hosted by Alexis de la Mare. We're still working on prizes. We always have some really good ones. We've gotten prizes by the Tampa Bay Lightning. We had a Side and Braden Point hat that we gave away. We had raised tickets that we've given away. We've given Ruth Eckerd Hall has absolutely blown us away with support. I was
going to say, didn't you have Diana Ross tickets?
Yep, we gave Diana Ross tickets.
Commenting on, he was announced that they were giving away Diana Ross tickets. I'm like, sure, Chris. Now that I've already bought mine.
Yeah, those were very popular.
I bet.
Even outside of that, if you listen to the Big Gay Radio Show, we do random ticket giveaways. We just gave away Mean Girls tickets.
Cool.
We
Nice.
Also, WMNF on May 10th has Tropical Heat Wave, which is their big music festival. And we gave away tickets to that on one of our recent episodes. So honestly, May 16th at Cocktail St. Pete is going to be a lot, or May 19th, excuse me. It's going to be whatever that Monday is, the Monday of that week.
I think it is the 19th.
Yeah, it is the 19th.
I think I either accepted it or it's on my calendar.
Yeah.
So for sure.
And then for the broadcast for your show, the Big A Radio Show, when is that?
So it's from midnight to 3 a.m. Thursday mornings. It's on
Okay.
88.5 WMNF Community Radio. It's hosted by myself, 𝐿GBTQ Russell, who's an amazing drag performer over in Ybor at Bradley's, and Brian Hinkson, who's an absolutely amazing graphic designer.
He's a lot of fun.
It is. And we have segments by Claire Leeson, who you guys have interviewed. She does our news. We have Tampa Bay Gay, Dave Borman, who does our community calendar. And then we also have Sean Kelly, who does our voiceover for the whole show. We honestly, it's so great about our show is that at any point in time, you're going to hear at least 6 gay individuals on
that's
air.
So cool.
That's true.
So if you turn on your radio right now, if you turn it on, I challenge you to find more than 2 gay individuals on a show.
Yeah, that's absolutely amazing.
That's true.
6 unique voices.
And they play kick-ass music.
Oh, I know. I love it.
I picked them. So to toot my own horn.
Well, it was so good to have you on the show today. Thank you so much.
Thank you guys for having me. I
Paul,
appreciate it.
Any final last words or?
So if you want to be a guest on the Skittle Squad podcast, we welcome anyone to come on the show if they want to hang with us for an hour or so. Or if you want to be an advertiser of the show, you can reach us at contact@theskittlesquad.com.
Yeah, and then make sure to follow us on all of our socials at the Skittle Squad Podcast. And we are everywhere, TikTok, Instagram, Facebook, YouTube. And thanks for listening. We will see you next time.